Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Courtside Soundoff podcast. Once again, I'm Josh Evanoff. As always, welcome by the one and only man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, Angel Ortega. We got a lot of stuff to talk about this week, boys. Day of Reckoning, that boxing card over the weekend in Saudi Arabia we got to go over. We also got to go over some news, but also, boys, it is the Courtside Soundoff Awards for 2023. I believe this is the fourth year in a row. So we're bringing it back, a whole lot of stuff to talk about, and we've said this before, probably our favorite episode of the year, because it's always fun to reflect, and 2023 is one of the craziest years in combat sports in a long, long time. That being said, before we break into all the action, as always, two sponsors of the show, Rogue Energy and ELYXR. Rogue Energy gets me to the finish line, whether I'm at the gym, working at home, or whether I'm at a Christmas party I don't want to be at, and they can help you get there with code SOUNDOFF at checkout for 10% off. Meanwhile, ELYXR, coming down off of the, coming off of the high of the weekend, man. Watching that Day of Reckoning card, seeing Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder go up in smoke, I instantly had to light up one as well with my, with code SOUNDOFF at ELYXR.com, for 10% off all my Delta A products, and you too can enjoy them. And once again, RogueEnergy.com and ELYXR.com, code SOUNDOFF at checkout. Yeah, I said it, dude. I said it, and we have to talk about it. Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, likely off, man. After that weekend card. Now, I say likely because we still haven't, contracts are contracts. Let's see how it plays out. But look, dude, in the main event, Anthony Joshua picking up a knockout winner for Otto Wallin in the fifth round. Kind of a disappointing performance for Wallin, man. It was, kind of got worked in there. But obviously the bigger news was Joseph Parker absolutely bodying Deontay Wilder in the co-main event, winning damn near every single round. Wilder just couldn't get off the right hand and ended up being battered, maybe losing a $50 million payday in the process. Angel, there's a lot of talk about coming out of this card, but give me just your overall thoughts on the night of, and specifically the fact that we're looking at Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, gone.
I mean, look, overall, great card, right? We gotta say it. I mean, Riyadh season is a real fucking deal, right? Like, we can kind of admit it at this point, you know?
Yeah.
Everything from the promo to the fights they're bringing to the production. I mean, I'm fucking down for it, you know? As far as last weekend, though. Fuck, man, what a shit show, right? Like,
yeah.
This is why, you can't make fights before other fights happen, cause you could really shoot yourself in the foot. And look, we both pick Wilder on the show, granted, because, we love me some Bob Squad, But admittedly though, and I think I might have even said this previously on the show in the past, I think when you look at the heavyweight division, Joseph Parker is probably one of the worst matchups potentially for Deontay Wilder. I never thought it would be like this though. Now, granted, I don't know if there's been a lot of talk about age. I don't even know if age is really a factor at this point. For one, because it's heavyweight. Two, because I don't know. I just didn't see that yet, in my opinion. Because when he did open up, you saw near the end, there was kind of these little moments. It's kind of like, damn, you kind of wish there was more of those moments throughout the whole fight. Earlier in the fight, midway through the fight, it took quite a while for him to kind of, get after Joseph Parker a little bit. And credit to Joseph Parker for staying disciplined the whole time, having his moments, hurting Deontay Wilder, and getting a big decision win, right? I mean, he's put himself in that conversation. Sadly for Joseph Parker, though, I don't think it's going to go too far, but I mean, he'll definitely be in the mix in some capacity. What capacity that'll be, though, is I really don't know. Maybe rematch with Andy Ruiz now, maybe get that one going back. Are we going to get Anthony Joshua, Joseph Parker? I don't know. I don't really think there's an audience for that.
Yeah, and especially given the fact that I think they fought, I want to say, 6 years ago at this point, and the fight wasn't really competitive or interesting. It was a relatively just standard AJ win. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much interest. Dude, I mean, we said it on the show. We said we picked both Joshua and Wilder to win. But at the same time, we both said, both of these guys can easily lose these fights. I mean, Joseph Parker, I thought going into this one, I didn't think he was going to be a good enough boxer to avoid the right hand for 12 rounds. And he's a guy that's taken a lot of damage over the course of his career. So I thought maybe Wilder was going to be able to crack the chins. For Wallin, I thought, maybe he's a southpaw, he's a bigger guy, big win streak, beat Gasset last time out. I thought he'd be able to pose some challenges. Dude, if you would have told me the way these two fights would have gone, I don't think I would have believed you, man. I thought Joshua Wallin was going to be way closer. Same thing for Parker Wilder, just for opposite reasons.
Which is funny.
Yeah, right. Man, yeah, bomb squad. There were no bombs on that night, dude. I mean, there were some bombs being landed. It was from fucking the Aussie, man. It was from Joseph Parker. Yeah, dude, it was a weird night, and this is why you just don't let fights marinate too long. Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao waited a decade to fight. Jeez. And by the time they fought, they were both past their prime. And sure, they got millions upon millions of people to watch the fight. But I feel like boxers took the wrong lesson from that situation. The only reason why that worked is because Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao are once in a generation talents and once in a generation draws. Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder are not that. They waited a decade to make this fight, and not really a decade, but it was more like, 6-7 years. And they even, for this fucking card, neither one of these guys had to fight actual opponents. They could have just fought on the December 23rd, They've built this fight up for so long, and now it's gone. They fucked around and they found out, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you put it bluntly, but yeah, I agree.
They did. They fucked around and they found out, and now Joshua, and I saw Eddie Hearn, trying his best to be like, oh, we're gonna go. He's gonna fight Filip Horogovic now. It's gonna be a great fight for AJ, and just trying hard to defend it, and it's like, bro, we know you lost $50 million, and theoretically the fight can still happen, and I know that it's according to everything I've read, it's signed for March 9th. But, I
mean, they could still go through it, but,
They could, yeah.
I mean, I'll watch it because I want to see it,
Yeah. But, they fucked around and they found out, man. I mean, they even if the fight goes through now, it's going to be significantly less important than it originally would have been because, man, it's rough. And here's the thing, too, is I still think Deontay Wilder might be able to beat Anthony Joshua. At the same time, I don't think, I give him, significantly less of a chance than I did previously. I don't think there's much of a question now. Also, we're talking about age. I will give my quick opinion on this part. I do think Deontay Wilder, I don't know about age, but I think the damage has caught up to him. Maybe not age, but the damage. Those wars of fury. Because here's the thing. People are correct in the fact that Joseph Parker likely would have outboxed Deontay Wilder at any point in his career. It didn't matter when. He's just a better pugilist. That's just the way it works. At the same exact time, Deontay Wilder, I've never seen him show less urgency. And in a fight whenever he had to know he was down, he didn't go out there. He didn't go for it. We've seen in Wilder's career whenever he's been down, he's gone for it against Luis Ortiz, against other guys of that caliber. He did not even go. He didn't even try to go for it. And for me, gun shy, being gun shy, that's always a sign a fighter's taking too much damage because they don't want to go. They know what happens if they do, So, yeah, man. It was a great performance of Joseph Parker. To be fair, it's not exactly like Deontay was bringing back much heat his way anyway. But yeah, man. Just a dominant performance. You said that you will watch it. Would you rather see Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder fight anybody else, or do you still think that's the fight to make?
See, that's the issue. Who else are they gonna fight? You know what I mean? It's like they like you stated earlier. They didn't have to fight anybody else. They could have just fought each other to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
They were both coming off wins. It would have sold. People would have bought it. There was a market and there was a time, and they didn't capitalize on it. Especially right now with all the Riyadh season and all this and all that going on, and then Fury and Usyk going down. They could label it as whoever wins this is going to fight for the heavyweight titles against the winner of Usyk and fucking Fury, potentially, right, for all the titles, or whatever, right? Something along the lines of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of my big issue too. Is I understand that, Eddie Hearn, he said afterwards that like, oh, Filip Rogovic for the IBF title, that's what we're gonna do. And I don't want to be mean.
Do you think Andy Ruiz in the mix? Because Andy Ruiz was there. That's the only reason I bring up, because there was a point in time where we talked.
Yeah.
There was actual murmurs of a potential Andy Ruiz Deontay Wilder fight, which I was DTF for. Obviously, it's 1-1. Andy and Joshua, we know that history already. Big upset. First Mexican heavyweight champ, right? Like, big deal, right? Mm-hmm. And he's been out of action for, it's going to be over a year now. Mm-hmm. So, do you think there's any potential there with him? Do you think he'll get involved in any of the Saudi Arabia stuff, or is Andy Ruiz, was Andy Ruiz just there out of his own goodwill, and he was just present?
I know he probably wants to get a big Saudi fight, a big Saudi payday. I know that, based off everything I've heard coming out of, like, his camp and everything from, like, the talks that he's had with the boxers, he's just asking for way too much. That's what Wilder said. That's what Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn said. That's what I think even Zhilei Zhang said or something. Like, everybody is saying, man. Yeah, everybody's saying that Ruiz is just asking for way too much. So maybe he was trying to be there to pump himself up and to maybe get some more interest. I could see him fighting on one of these Saudi cards. Honestly, I'm surprised he wasn't on this one. I mean, it was full of heavyweight. It seemed like it would have made sense. Maybe Daniel Dubois versus Ruiz. I mean, I'm down to see Andy Ruiz come back. I don't know who he'll fight, though. This is kind of a big issue. Is this fight really... Parker Wilder really did fuck up the division. And that's why I don't know why they didn't just give Deontay Wilder like fucking Mark DeMorty or something. Like, why would you even risk it? Joseph Parker is like... Joseph Parker, even before this fight, was like a legitimate top 5, top 10 guy. Like, everybody knew that. Like, his losses are fucking, who is it? It's Joshua, fucking Joe Joyce, and then somebody else that I can't remember in there.
Man, but that Joey Joyce one was a shocker, bro.
That was, and that was,
especially because of what followed after for Joey Joyce, which was the 2 back-to-back Zhilei Zhang losses.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was still shocking. It was Dillian White. That's who else Joseph Parker lost to. But outside of that, I mean, he's beaten so many good guys, and he's a legitimate top 5, top 10 guy. I don't even know why the fuck they booked this fight. I said that on Twitter. I'm like, dude, like, if you're gonna give Deontay Wilder like a fight before fighting Anthony Joshua, fucking put me in there, dog. Like put somebody like me in there.
Do you think they should have done like Big Baby Miller in there? Like, do you think that could have worked too?
Yeah, I mean, that would have made sense. Like, I think, dude, like,
my man disrespected, bro. He said they should have thrown Mark DeMori in there, dude. My boy Mark DeMori didn't even want to die. Didn't even want to fight. Definitely didn't want to die. Definitely didn't want to fight.
Mark DeMori got murked by, fucking Filip Rogovic. He's probably going to fight AJ next. Like, I don't know why they didn't put that fucking fight together, dude. I think I could have shifted some names around and make this card more, like, a lot more interesting.
Damn, Josh, fucking Saudi Arabia should have signed you, bro.
That's what I'm saying. Hey, dude, hey, I've talked about their sports washing, but I'm a sellout to a point. If they give me any money, I'm fucking...
You let them know, bro.
I'll be like, hashtag visit Saudi, like, Riyadh season, all that stuff. But anyways, yeah, I mean, any thoughts? I mean, we mentioned Mark DeMori. In terms of the undercard, what fights else do you want to talk about? Any noteworthy things you want to mention?
Man, I'm just ready for Dimitri Bivol, dude, versus Arthur Beterbiev.
That is true. Apparently, I've heard that Bivol signed his side of the contract, so now he's just waiting on Beterbiev to get through Callum Smith. So, I believe that's who's going to fight next. So
yes, you're right. Which I imagine... Sure, what is the date for that? For Arthur Beterbiev versus Callum Smith, by the way.
I want to say it's January 13th in Quebec.
Dude, that's coming up on us quick. That is going to be here before we even know it.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't want to say it, but Callum Smith, I don't want to say he could show up and give him a fight.
But he's a dog,
He's a dog, and he's had big moments before. He's just super inconsistent, so we'll see. But he's giant at light heavyweight. So
hey, his only loss is Canelo Alvarez, bro. So.
Took him to decision. I don't think he did anything, if I remember correctly, that fight. But, he didn't get his ass beat as bad as John Ryder did, so I suppose that's something.
By the way, that Callum Smith, like, I remember, like, not so long afterwards, like, a lot of people, like, didn't give that fight like a lot of weight to it, but ever since then, like that Callum Smith win has aged very well for Canelo.
Oh yeah, I mean that was a win. I remember I was way off, but I was like, maybe Callum's gonna be the guy to test him. I was really impressed with a couple of his wins. He knocked out George Groves. And granted he's pretty older, but yeah, I mean that was a great win for Canelo, and he beat the shit out of him too. Like I could pull it up. Yeah, dude, he won 117, 111, 119, 109. Those were the scores. So, damn. Yeah. Anyways, though, yeah, man, I don't have too many other thoughts about this Day of Reckoning card. We'll have to see where things go from here, man. I mean, I'm still down to watch Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder, but like I said, they waited way too long. They risked it for no reason either. So it's just like, man, what are you guys doing? Like, what the fuck are you doing, man? So, just kind of my thoughts. But anyways, man, are you ready for the Soundoff Awards, Angel? You got all your things pulled up.
Dude, I've been fucking ready.
That's what I thought. Listen, folks, Soundoff Awards 2023. It's been a great year. It has been a very, very fun year. Not exactly like, I don't know, it's not the greatest year of all time, but I will say it was an eventful year. I think that's the way to put it. And as every year, we'll talk about our biggest highlights of the year. And I think we're going to go ahead and start off. This is one of Angel's handpicked categories. Breakout Fighter of the Year. Angel, do you want to explain the qualifications for Breakout Fighter of the Year?
So for me, Breakout Fighter of the Year is just someone who kind of just showed up, kind of established himself in the UFC. They could have already been in the UFC. And on top of that, kind of the big, for me, thing is it just can't be a ranked fighter. A lot of people might see a Breakout Fighter of the Year, maybe a guy like Ian Gary or fucking, Bo Nickel, right? You might say, because we talked about him earlier. But do you want me to open up with my Breakout Fighter of the Year, Josh?
Sure, man. Go ahead.
So my Breakout Fighter of the Year is Ikram Aliskerov, Josh. I mean, let's just be honest. He has this attention behind him already, like so quick. With not even that many fights in the UFC. I mean, he is 2 fights deep into his UFC career. He actually officially debuted in the UFC, win over Phil Haas, win over Warley Ovis. Sadly, opponent changed there, originally Nazarene Imamov. But I don't know. I mean, I think he was a breakout guy for this year.
Mm-hmm. That's hilarious. That's hilarious because Ikram Aliskerov is also my breakout fighter for 2023.
But I think he's like the perfect definition of it, though, when you think about a breakout fighter of the year.
Jokes aside, he is. I mean, a guy who came in off of, a bunch of wins in Brave CF, including a loss to Hamza Chimaev. He fought in Eagle FC. Coming in and did as far as like a UFC 2023, it was basically about as dominant as you could possibly get. Now granted, he didn't face like the highest level of competition. Phil Hawes, Warley Alves, not exactly top 15 guys. In the case of Warley Alves, I mean, a guy that's like been in the UFC for quite a while now. Typically fights, I feel like I remember him fighting way more at like welterweight than middleweight too. So he's definitely undersized for that one too. But still, dude, I mean, he had 2 knockout wins, a combined 4 minutes of cage time. He looks primed for a huge 2024. I couldn't agree more, man. He's definitely the breakout fighter of the year, especially considering we're not counting guys who are in the top 15. And, he's going to be in there very soon. And the UFC knows it too. That's why they booked him against Paulo Costa and Nasruddin Imavov. Both of those fights fell apart, but going to fight Anthony Hernandez in February. And if he wins that one, he will be ranked. So, absolute banger. Great choice. And next up, I believe this is another one from you. New talent of the year. This one, I believe, your qualifications are just guy, girl, got to the UFC in 2023. Interesting name. Why don't you go ahead, man?
Yeah, I mean, more or less, it's just like they made their debut this year in the UFC.
Yeah.
For me, this is a guy that initially I was not super convinced about. He's very green, still learning a lot, but I will say his last 2 performances kind of showed a fair bit of the growth. And for me, Josh, it was Vitor Petrino, the 205er. 26 years young, 10 fights deep. I mean, look, he went for fighting Anton Turkalaj, having some, and that fight went the distance, having some moments in that where I was kind of like, okay, we can see that there's some IQ, there's still some learning here that needs to be improved on, to getting a finish over Marcin Pragno and finishing Modestas Bukauskas on the feet, who just had come back to the UFC after not being in the UFC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dude, that's a good fucking pick, dude. That's a good pick. And I'm gonna give you one that I don't think you thought about. And this one actually may be a little bit controversial. You know, I'll go ahead and say that, because he did suffer a loss this year, actually. But the man is active. He's young and he's entertaining as fuck. I'm talking about the notorious CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan, 9-1, 2-1 in the UFC thus far. He debuted with a knockout win over Dusko Todorovic in March. He later suffered a decision loss to Arman Petrosian in a banger in June. That was the first loss of his career. And Arman's another guy, too, who's very good, pretty, not young necessarily, but young in his UFC tenure. And then CLZ back in November, getting a knockout win to get back on the board. He's an interesting guy, man. He's a very interesting guy, and I look forward to seeing him move forward. Former Cage Warriors guy, still only 28 years old, fighting out of the UK. We'll see how he does. Very excited to see him move forward. But he is my new talent of the year. This one's going to be a little bit different. This one's going to be a little bit more, I guess, in depth. This is going to be our top 5 fights in MMA for 2023. Normally we do, I believe it's 3. But dude, I feel like we should kind of open it up a little bit, because this year was so crazy, and there's a lot of fights I do want to highlight. And so I figured we can just go back and forth, man. I mean, what's one of your 5?
I mean, it's probably one you definitely have on your list. I don't know. Did you put yours in order? I kind of did, kind of didn't. If that makes sense. I know that sounds a little odd.
No. I think I know exactly what you mean. Well, we could just go in general. This can be not super ranked.
I mean, for me, my fight of the year, I guess I'll say that undisputedly, personally, my fight of the year was Brandon Moreno, Alexander Pantoja. There's no question about it. Title on the line, 5-round banger, flyweights going at it. I mean, I think it was for me, it hit all the check boxes on what I personally look for in a fight of the year. There was other really good fights, but for me, it's, dude, there's something on the line. And on top of that, I mean, a 3-round fight can be fight of the year. Mm-hmm. But for me, this one, without a doubt, was definitely fight of the year, and I don't think anything else came close to it. There were some bangers in there, but this did have the title on the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm in full agreement with you. Like, mine are not ranked, but yeah, absolutely. Alexander Pantoja versus Brandon Moreno 3. I mean, you're talking about 2 of the best on the planet at flyweight, and back and forth, man. I mean, just both guys getting rocked. All phases of MMA involved in this one. Just an absolute fucking banger. And the fact that there was history involved too. I mean, it's a rivalry, and they might fight for a 4th time. Like, it just, all of it, encapsulates together into becoming like the perfect fight of the year. That's what I was gonna mine aren't really ranked, but if I had to choose one, I probably would choose the same exact fight, that one. Yeah, man, absolute banger. And also I mean, it had everything, including the emotional moment at the end, man. Are you proud of me now, Dad? I mean, fuck, man. I mean, Alexander Pantoja, cannibal, dude. A guy who's so violent. His nickname is the fucking Cannibal, providing us with the tearjerker moment of the year, man. Like, so, yeah, man. What's another fight you want to go ahead and give some praise to?
I mean, we gotta give some love to the ladies, man. Literally, buzzer beater, stamp their name into the conversation, Josh. Irene Aldana, Carol Rosa. Irene Aldana coming back after turning in a very disappointing performance against Amanda Nunes. This was the perfect way to come back and end the year, man. Giving us a fight of the year contender, because these ladies went at it, Josh. Nonstop action on the feet, back and forth punches. There was blood. There was pain. There was hurt. Absolute all-time banger from me. All-time all-time fight. It could be all-time fight, but definitely all-time women's fight for sure, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. I fully agree, dude. I fully agree. That is a banger fight. That's not the fight I was gonna show some love to the ladies with, though. I mean, that's a really good one. But I'm glad that you did not take this one, or maybe you did. But Macy Barber versus Amanda Hebos, UFC Jacksonville in the summer. Two young fighters on the rise at women's flyweight, beating the absolute shit out of each other. I don't know if people remember this one. It was like a fucking horror movie scene with blood everywhere, both ladies bleeding, and it was Macy Barber who got the knockout win to kind of stamp her place. It's like, you know what? I am the future. Big fucking moment for her. A banger of a fight. Had to show some love to the ladies for that one. What's another fight that you want to talk about, man?
Well, funny enough, it was a fight that was also on that card, Josh. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, shit.
It was Chepe Mariscal versus Trevor Peake, Josh. These guys had an absolute fucking banger. They both rocked each other multiple times. It was visible on each other's faces. I mean, absolute fucking just. I mean, I at one point in time I thought this potentially could have been a fight of the year, but I definitely had it in the back of my mind for a while. It was a fight that was even on the prelims or early prelims too, so it had no, the average fan might have not even expected it, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good pick, dude. Now, that's not a fight a whole lot of people remember.
I think debuted too for Chepe Mariscal that day.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, that's a good pick. That's a good shout. I don't think too many people would have picked that one, man. This is a personal one for me. I don't think most people saw this fight, which was an absolute shame. Bellator 290, Brennan Ward versus Sabah Homasi.
Yeah.
These two fucking guys. He came back from his long layoff where he had a lot of, addiction issues, and he got clean. Ever since then, he's turned in banger after banger after banger, but none of them have been as good as this fight. Going down start of the year in February, January. In February, Sabah Homasi rocked him early, nearly got the finish, couldn't get the finish because Brennan Ward's got that fucking dog in him, and just that second round starts, and they just winged fucking punches for the entire duration. Eventually, Brennan Ward ends up getting the knockout win in just an absolute war, man. That was a Bellator 290 card that was a very, very fun one, and man, just an absolutely electric knockout win for Brennan Ward. So I had to go ahead and mention that one. What's another pick for you, man?
I mean, that's a good shot, by the way. I thought about picking that one at one point. I mean, Josh, I'm surprised you didn't mention this one earlier, but it's one that really set the tone for the year. It's Islam versus Volkanovski 1, Josh.
Yeah.
In Australia, I mean, it was a fight that we could not stop talking about there for a while. It showed, I think this fight showed how great both these guys are, truthfully, and in multiple ways. And for Volk, I mean, that night, and it was in Australia too, if I remember right. Just a great fight. I mean, like I said, there was a conversation of like, did Volk win? Is Volk supposed to be the 155 champ right now?
Mm-hmm.
We had that conversation there. Was Volk robbed? I thought, at one point in time, I was one of those people. I thought Volkanovski had won.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did too, and that was actually the fight I was going to mention next, dude. That main event of UFC 284, it had everything. It had, fuck, dude. I mean, it doesn't get much better than pound for pound number 1 versus pound for pound number 2. It literally doesn't get better than that. And it was two guys at the height of their career. Like, I don't think most people realize how rare this actually is. Like, we've had a lot of champ fights, but is there really any time whenever we've had like a champ fight, whenever we can really say like, okay, these are definitively number 1 in the weight class? You know what I mean? Like, think back to some of the historical ones. Conor McGregor versus Eddie Alvarez. Love Conor, love Eddie. Habib should have been champion that night, if we're being honest. You know what I mean? Like, in featherweight, I don't think he could have made any arguments against Conor, but you get my point. You know what I mean? Like, there's multiple examples. Like Daniel Cormier, Stipe. Love both of those guys. But DC was only champion because John Jones was out of action. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's many, examples of that. Alexander Volkanovski and Islam Makhachev are clearly #1 in each of their respective weight classes. They got a full camp, unlike the rematch, and they put on one of the greatest fights and one of the most high-level fights that you'll ever fucking see. I don't think people will appreciate that enough until it's like Angel. I don't think we're going to see a fight like this for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, we'll get super fights, you know what I mean? But like that, nah, man. What are we going to say?
I mean, I was going to say, and the other thing, dude, they were pound for pound. They were right next to each other. I mean, that's probably the only time that we're ever going to have that again. I mean, conveniently, they both were in weight classes where they could potentially fight each other, and they did fight each other. The odds of that happening again, I don't know if it ever will in our lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I fully agree, dude. I fully agree. I don't think it will. I don't think it will, man. I mean, it's just so rare, and that's what I was trying to say. That's the kind of the overall point I'm trying to get across. Like, we've had super fights, we've had champ versus champ, but like, pound for pound #1 versus pound for pound #2, and you can definitely argue that like, I've definitely taken some shots at Islam over the years because I just generally don't like guys who kind of get accelerated to a title position. Like, he beat one ranked guy, which was 2 week, not even 2 week, 1 week Dan Hooker, you know what I mean? Before he got the title shot. So I don't think, you could definitely argue that he didn't deserve to be pound for pound #1, even #2, #3, #4. But that night, he showed his actual craft against a guy of that caliber, against Volkanovski, and the fight previous against Oliveira, and so on and so forth. Just two guys high to their prime. Banger of a fight. Doesn't get much better. And it was one of those fights to where, like, we both thought Volkanovski deserved the nod. But, like, I don't think, we weren't mad whenever Islam won. Like, it was a fucking hard fight to score. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man. Great pick. And you have one more, I believe, to pick for fight of the year.
Dude, this is one that I hope people will remember. Cody Gibson versus Brad Cantona.
Oh, shit. That's a good one.
I mean, to be honest, the fight that won, obviously it brought Brad Cantona back to the UFC because he won tough. But on top of that, gave Cody Gibson another opportunity to be in the UFC. Because he did end up getting signed after this, even though he didn't win technically the tough tournament or tough finale or whatever. But he got a chance to, I believe he's a history AP teacher or something along the lines there, English AP teacher. He got an opportunity to be in the UFC once again, man. I mean, that's a pretty sick moment in and of itself right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great fucking pick. I'm happy you went ahead and mentioned that one. That was my 6th fight, just barely missed the cut. That's actually serious. That's not a joke. So
you know an honorable mention I have in here that's people are probably gonna give a shit for that we didn't put in here, dude. But Fiziev Gaethje.
Yeah, that was a good fight.
It was good. I know. I mean, and I didn't put it in there because I couldn't see myself removing any of these other people out of this list. And granted, I mean, the striking quality in that fight was probably way higher than Aldana and Madagaskar repeat. But those were some bangers, dude. They were just slobbering out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolute slobber knockers. I agree, dude. I don't necessarily think that. Yeah, I mean, look, that's a good fight, but I didn't even come out of that fight thinking like, damn, dude, that's a fight of the year, because I thought both of those guys if I remember that fight correctly, it was definitely way more slow paced than a lot of other Gaethje fights, which are normally fight of the year. Maybe that's why I'm not remembering it as fondly, but
it's crazy because usually Gaethje every time he fights, has at least one. You know, he has one.
Exactly. So it's surprising he's not going to make the cut, but it does make sense. I mean, a 3-round fight, with Fiziev, it was a good fight, but it didn't blow me away. And then the Poirier knockout, which was incredible, but no fight of the year for Justin Gaethje. I guess you're right, because I have to give one more. My last one, dude. Come on, Angel. I can't believe you didn't listen here. Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya 2. I mean, I understand that it kind of got ruined because both of these guys are in dramatically different places just a couple of months later. But dude, I mean, the rivalry going into it, the action involved. I rewatched that fight last week just for fun. And it's another fight that ends in the second round. But dude, the 8 minutes that they're in the cage were fucking electric. Just so much action involved. It looked like Izzy was going to suffer the loss. In the end, he gets his own comeback win after suffering, a 5th round knockout loss in November. Two Hall of Famers, another chapter of the rivalry. I have to mention in my top 5 fights of the year. Maybe it didn't go as long as some other ones, but damn, it was electric from the word go.
It's a great. I think the big thing about those fights, I mean, both those fights, both guys had the intensity. in the cage, the intensity in the room. There's very few times where I watch a fight and I feel like weight on my shoulders, and that was definitely one of them where I had something the whole time because I know at any moment, it could just happen, and it did in both of their fights.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely, I think it's a good shout. I could, for me personally, didn't make the cut, but definitely a great moment for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough, man. Fair enough. Yeah, that's all we got for our top 5 fights of the year. Like you said, probably if we had to actually rank them, Pantoja Moreno probably would have been number 1. But regardless, great year for combat sports, specifically MMA. But man, we got to go ahead and talk about our event of the year. Because look, man, there's been a lot of great cards. This is applying to MMA, boxing, whatever you want it to be in the world of combat sports.
Man,
there's been a lot of great stuff, man. What's your event of the year, Angel?
Oh man, this one's a hard one for me, Josh. I definitely went back and forth because, event of the year, and I think there's a little bit of, what are you looking for? You're looking for how all the fights went on the card, how the production of the event, how it looked, the scenery, the outcome, whatever, right? But for me, my event of the year, Josh, had to be, and it's actually a toss up for me. It's either Francis X Tyson Fury or Bud X Earl. Both of those both of those events had, those moments going in there, the production, and Eminem being there with Earl. But for me, it has to be Francis Tyson. It doesn't get enough love. Another honorable mention in there, which is, I don't think anybody's probably even thought of. One's debuted in the U.S. with DJ and Maurice 3 in the main event. Honestly, I think that's a good shot too, man. It showed all aspects of MMA. Rodtang on the co-main, Mikey Musumeci on that card too, Stamp Fairtex, the return of Sage Northcutt. Lots of talent on that card. I know that one's that's just kind of a sleeper pick for me personally.
Mm-hmm. That's a good pick, dude. There's a couple of good shouts. Tyson Fury, Francis Ngannou. That was one that I was thinking a lot about for this. And if we're gonna go ahead and tie it, or if you're gonna give two, I'm gonna give that one as well, man. That was the card itself really wasn't anything crazy, and I hated the musical performances, and really I don't have any good fond memories of basically anything before the walkouts. But god damn it, whenever the Saudis want to put on money, and they want to put on a show, and they have the money to do so, they can make some cool shit happen, dude. I remember the walkout very fondly. Ngannou coming out with Izzy and Kamaru and Mike Tyson, and he's coming out with the fucking crown on and everything. And then Fury, his entrance of going through that long hallway, getting hyped up by all the legends of boxing from yesteryear. Even guys like fucking Riddick Bowe there, they flew out everybody, man.
The ghost of Tommy Morrison was there too, dude. Believe it or not.
Jesus Christ, Angel. The Duke, he was there. He was in attendance.
He was there, man.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, Tommy Morrison was there, bro. Yeah, man. Just, he had that long entrance, and then the fight was just like, man, I'll never forget watching that fight, man. Just, I remember I was fucking trying to write, I was trying to work at the same time.
You couldn't function.
I couldn't function. I was trying to write some other, stuff up from, the prelims or whatever the fuck that doesn't matter, And I remember that knockdown, and I remember the knockdown, and I was just like, is this real? My fiance can attest to this. I was like, fucking, I was watching it on my phone, I was like, what the fuck? I was just, wasn't even happy, shocked. I was just.
I'm sad we didn't watch that together, because I got hyped up in the room, dude. I fucking was like, oh shit,
Well, to be fair, if I thought that fight was gonna be a fraction as good.
Oh, dude, I had hope the whole time, bro. I had Francis's back the whole time.
You knew Iron Mike was going to go in there and give him the tools to succeed.
Exactly.
But, anyways, bro. Yeah, man, an insane night. I do have to give another mention, though. My event of the year before I knew we were doing two, have this one tied.
I mean, I gave it an honorable mention. It was just so hard. You always want to mention multiple.
You're right. Regardless, Bellator 290, the retirement of Fyodor Emelianenko in the main event. This card had Johnny Eblin, Brennan Ward versus Sabah Almasi, Lorenz Larkin with his fucking elbow knockout of Makhmed Barakamov, Henry Corrales. I mean, the prelims were fucking stacked, man. And in that main event, Fedor lost, but having the big send-off, like, surrounded by MMA legends, a lot of Pride guys there, a lot of early UFC guys there paying him his due. It felt like an end of an era, and it's really hard to pull that off, like, respectfully, professionally, and have it look good. But yeah, man, I mean, that was one of my events of the year. One of my favorite moments of the year was Fedor's retirement send-off. I mean, that was pretty fucking epic, dude. I mean, to have all those legends surrounding him. And really, just like I said, an end of an era. Because Fedor really was kind of the last big guy from Pride that was still fighting. Now, granted, there's still some out there. But whenever you think of Pride, you think of guys like Fedor Emelianenko, and he was one of the last ones to go. So I have to go ahead and give him a shout. And that's going to be the last big Bellator card, too. I mean, that one aired on CBS, They said it was going to air on Paramount Plus, and then it fucking didn't.
Someone sounds triggered.
I'm still triggered over it. I bought Paramount Plus for that shit and didn't air on it. They aired the replay, thank God, a couple weeks later, But yeah, anyways, man, that's my thoughts on that. Yeah, Bellator 290, excellent event. That being said, man, we got more awards to give out. Boxing match of the year, man. A lot of big ones. Great year for boxing, man. Great year for boxing. Which one would you say, which boxing match stood out to you as the most important or best?
For me, this one's an easy one, Josh. I had to do Plant Benavidez.
That's a good pick.
Dude, Plant's toughness is just unquestioned, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Benavidez is a great talent. I mean, not even that long ago, we've seen another stellar performance out of him. Easily for me personally, my boxing match of the year. And look, there was a lot of other great moments. There was a lot of great finishes, but for me, this was a great match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm on the same page too. And that was a great fight. Caleb Plant, he had, there's heat behind that one too, man. Like both guys who are both on the rise. Maybe not Caleb Plant's not on the rise, but he's proved himself to be a fucking dog at 168. And Benavidez is absolutely a guy on the rise. So yeah, that's a great pick. I'm gonna go ahead and throw out. I gotta give some praise, man. This is a fight I would have never expected to put here because I think even during the build of this fight, I kind of shit on one of these guys' can't remember if it was on the podcast or in like a couple of the written pieces I did. Artur Beterbiev versus Anthony Yarde. Yeah. Artur Beterbiev, man. I mean, you're talking about a fucking Russian killer. 19 up, 19 down, and prior to that fight, he faced Joe Smith Jr., a former champion, retired, I think he even was champion at the time, retired fucking B-Hop, just a dog, and Artur Beterbiev blasted him out of there in 2 rounds. And so then he's taking on Anthony Yarde in the UK, and Anthony Yarde, I like the guy, but I mean...
Dude, but you've seen it, bro. You've seen it, Kovalev.
The Kovalev fight.
He's there, bro.
I know. He was, but even then, that was a 7,000-year-old Kovalev, He lost to Lyndon Arthur.
And look, he did lose all those matchups. But it was just like, he gave you these moments of like, why are you making this shaky?
Yeah, no, I agree. And that better be a fight, dude. I mean, you're talking about a guy, 30, I want to say he's in his early 30s now. He has to be. And just facing like the best in the world at his weight class, and he probably knew, all right, I'm gonna get one last shot at the titles. I'm going out on my fucking shield. And Anthony Yarde went in there and he brought the dog out, the beast from the east, that's his nickname. He went in there, gave it his all, got knocked out, but god damn it, for 8 rounds of just electric action, bro. I mean, that's all that fight was, man. So I gotta go and tip it, man. Love Beterbiev. Love, big Anthony Yarde fan. I do like Anthony Yarde. I've shit on his chances a couple of different times, and I gotta stop doing that because every single time he goes out, he doesn't win, but god damn it, he gives it his all, and that's all he can really ask, man. So yeah, big one, man. Next up, we have upset of the year. Let's be honest here. There's really only a couple of different fights you could pick. There were a couple of big upsets though. Which one are you going with, Angel?
Oh man, Josh, you know I had to pick Ismail Ball fame, Nicholas Dalton. I was kidding. That was a big upset. That was a big upset, actually, betting odds-wise, if I believe so. If I remember right. I can't remember if it was Gabriel Bonfim. It was one of the Bonfim brothers. Regardless, though, Josh. I mean, look, we only have one choice, Josh. If you didn't pick this, I'm actually going to be surprised. Or if you have another pick, I think that'll be cool. You'll have to educate me here, but it has to be Sean Izzy, right? I mean, there's no if, buts, or wins about it, right?
It has to be. That's my pick. Yeah. I mean, I kind of wanted to say Grasso, Shevchenko, just to be a hipster, but, let's be honest here. I mean, Shevchenko has kind of been struggling her last few fights anyway. It wasn't as crazy of a shock as it would have been, 2 years ago. So, yeah, dude, upset of the year, Sean Izzy. I mean,
and also he had the lead up into it. Like, it was his last fight this year as well, which could have contributed to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas if Grasso maybe had that fight with Valentina, it was a draw, and then she fought again this time, and kind of, like, if the fights were literally flipped, I think we might be having a different conversation.
You're not wrong.
Or maybe not, because maybe that, like we said, if the fights were flipped, then it would have been a draw or whatever. But, we're talking about what if scenarios.
Yeah. I don't think so, though, man. Just because the circumstances, I think it's possible, but the circumstances leading into Sean Izzy, I mean, Sean wasn't supposed to get the title shot, man. I mean, he was running a 2-fight winning streak over, who is it, Abus Magomedov and Jared Cannonier. Well, not even Jared Cannonier. He lost to Cannonier. Yeah, he lost to Cannonier. He beat Nasruddin. So, yeah, I mean, they ended up going with him. They gave him the title shot because Rodriguez couldn't make it. They went over Cannonier, who had beaten him recently. And Izzy's coming off of avenging, a loss to a longtime rival. It looked like, okay, now we're back on track. Now we're back on the Israel Adesanya story, And then Sean Strickland's like, no, fuck no, this is my story. And he beat his ass in his home country. And by the end of the fight, they were cheering for Sean Strickland, man. I guess it's his adopted home country, but you get my point. Yeah, man, just insane. Has to be upset of the year. But, there's a lot of other stuff to talk about, man. This is a fun one. Moment of the year. I'm very curious to see what you have here, because this could be anything. Just if you think of 2023, what's just one moment that pops into your mind, man?
So I have my moment, and then I'll give my 2 honorable mentions. Josh, for me, this one isn't even close. It's something that I think we should still be talking about now. Something that I feel is not even getting as much attention as it should. Undisputedly, unquestionably, the moment of the year for 2023 in combat sports was Francis Ngannou dropping Tyson Fury.
Yep.
It's not even close. Look, Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence fought. Cool. Awesome. Crawford put up a fucking historic numbers. You know what I mean? Hitting at an impressive accuracy. But John Jones made his return at heavyweight. He beat Cyril Gane in seconds. We just talked about Sean Strickland. That's a big moment too. But Josh, none of that comes close to me personally than Francis Ngannou dropping Tyson Fury on the cabins. The world heavyweight champion of the world against an 0-0 boxer. That will live rent free in my head. Right behind me right now, Josh. You can't see it. I have a Doubted hoodie. It's from Full Violence. It's Ngannou dropping Tyson Fury. I shit you not. If I turn on my camera right now, it's hanging on the back of my chair. That's what I have behind me right now. That's how meaningful this moment is to me.
You're for the first video version of the Soundoff podcast, you're gonna be wearing that hoodie, I'm sure.
Of course. And on top of that, Josh, in the front of it, it has one word. Because on the back it has the sign, and the word on the front says "Doubted."
Oh, that goes hard, dude. I didn't even know they fucking came out with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great pick, dude. And Ngannou, man. I mean, we have some Ngannou, hopefully, news later to cover. I mean, obviously it's not confirmed, but PFL stuff, PFL news to talk about. Yeah. So, but hopefully, God willing. Regardless, yeah, I mean, that's an excellent moment. And if you're looking at the totality of the year, that's probably it. I mean, you're talking about something that just seemed impossible. I mean, and people still try to, I don't want to say doubt it, but they're like, oh, Tyson Fury, he's been inactive. You know, he didn't take the fight seriously. Like, people are still making excuses about it. Like, it's crazy. It's fucking crazy. Because people just don't know how to respond to it. And I said this at the time. Like, you can't see a single thing about Tyson Fury that you can't also say about Francis Ngannou. You know what I mean? Like, he's been out for a year. And Ngannou was out for 2. You know, like, he didn't have a tune-up, you know, fucking Ngannou's never boxed. So it's like, yeah, man, I mean, just, it's still crazy to me, even well over 2 months later. And it's one of those fights that, like, I feel like decades from now, we're gonna be like, yeah, I watched that fucking fight. You know what I mean?
Are you excited for us to be old and talk about that one day?
Yeah. We're gonna be sitting on the front porch, you know.
Dude, literally what I was thinking right now.
Smoking weed, because hopefully Kansas will legalize it at some point in my fucking lifetime. No, but in the meantime, use code Soundoff at ELYXR.com. But yeah, I mean, just insane. I did not go with that as my moment of the year, because I kind of figured that was you're probably going to take that one.
Well, like I said, I got 2 more honorable mentions too.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know what? Go ahead. Take your honorable mentions.
My other honorable mention, Josh, Cedric Doumbé. PFL debut. That was pretty fucking sick. I mean, you can't deny it. That was a sick moment. On top of that, getting the finish, crowd gets rattled up, and then the MVP face-off, you know, just to get us a little excited. Didn't end up happening. But, dude, that was a powerful moment right there. And it wasn't in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I had to mention it so much.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of cut you off, that is my moment of the year. That is my moment of the year. The debut, the PFL debut of Cedric Doumbé. He said that the UFC fumbled him. He is absolutely correct. Because, dude, I mean, I said it at the time. I mean, it's one of those moments that you're like, if somebody transported you, if they took that moment and they just put it in like the Roman Coliseum, like fucking, you know what I mean? Nobody would doubt it. Like that's one of the coolest moments in human history, dog. I mean, he had the crowd entirely on his side. He brought out a fucking mattress that said Bonne Nuit Jordan, and then he put him to sleep in 7 fucking seconds. After, like, dude, I mean, fuck off. Like, are you kidding me? Yeah, man. I mean, that was my moment of the year. I mean, I was in pure awe watching that. Like, that was the moment that made me think, like, okay, this could be lightning in a bottle here, but if the PFL can capture this just a couple more times a year, something of, not even of this caliber, because that's not going to happen again, but of something a fifth of this cool, you know?
Dude, you even mentioned that fucking Mbappe was there too.
Shit, there you go. Mbappe was there, yeah. I mean, I know there were other soccer players too, like.
I think there was some other players from PSG there too.
Like, dude, they maybe they're not all the way in the U.S. yet, but like, dude, if you're gonna debut somewhere and that was their debut in France, you know, that's the way to do it. The way to do it. So, you have one more honorable mention, I believe. You said you had 2.
We have to talk about this one, Josh. This one is probably not going to get as much love as the other 2 did. Not even close. Because even the Cedric Doumbé one killed it on Twitter, on Instagram, on ESPN, and all that. Stamp Fairtex becoming 3-sport champ, and obviously the moment she shared with Angela Lee that fight week, man, because obviously Angela Lee coming out, telling a lot about her personal life and obviously the situation with her family and all that, and kind of talking about her own battles with mental health, and kind of the poetry even in the fight itself that happened, because those gals thought they were going to be fighting. I can't remember if it was for a title shot or for the interim belt, because Angela Lee was still the champ at the time. That the night before Angela Lee relinquishes her title and tells Stamp and Ham privately that they will be fighting for the title the following day. And the fight happens, and Stamp ends that fight in a body kick finish, which crazily enough, her fight with Angela, because when she fought for the title the first time, she almost finished Angela with a body kick. Angela recovered. She made it. I can't remember if she made it to the next round or she continued that round. Fight went to the ground and she finished Stamp with a submission, which I can't remember off the top of my head. And they embraced each other. And then later on, kind of the same moment happens again, but in a very different way. It was just something so beautiful. and something that I'll never probably ever get to see again. And it just kind of all lined up perfectly. Obviously, the moment came from sadness, but it became a happy moment in the end. And at the end, when Sam tells Angela, "Can I call you sister?" It was like a fucking movie script.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I mean, it was a great moment. I'd probably make that. I mean, you described it very well, like really well. Honestly, if one wasn't super sensitive about copyright, I'd totally make like a clip of that. But yeah, dude, I love me some Stan Fairtex. I think it's kind of funny. I think if there's like going to be a fighter that's going to get like U.S. attention, it's going to be DJ, right? It's probably. Mm-hmm. I think Stamp's not too far behind him. Like, she has a very big fan base. She's very entertaining, not only in the cage but outside the cage. She's very sweet. She's a great personality. And I'm really happy you mentioned that, dude. I think the Angela Lee story has been one that's really gone under the radar for the Angela Lee / Victoria Lee. The whole one championship saga involving that really did not get the attention that it deserved, and I understand why. I mean, MMA websites and you know, they don't want to cover anything non-UFC because of the obvious reasons. But yeah, I mean, that was an incredible story. I'm happy you mentioned that one, dude. That's one that also flew under the radar for me personally, you know? So I'm very happy you mentioned that one. But now it's time to break into the best of the best. We have Boxer of the Year up next. And to be quite honest, I don't think this one's very difficult, but I'm curious to see who you have. For me, it's pretty obvious.
I mean, I think after, you know, last night, or I guess yesterday morning for us,
yeah.
I mean, it has to be Inoue, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's not even close. I mean, look, credit to Bud Crawford, credit to Gervonta Davis, credit to Devin Haney, but I think what Inoue has done in these 13 months is probably the most impressive out of all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm on the same page with you. I mean, it's funny. I was talking about my fiance asked me, like, she was like, who is this Japanese guy? Because for some reason he was on her TikTok because, you know, he fought yesterday, and I was like, dude, that's Naoya Inoue, and if he fought in America, he'd be the biggest fucking thing you'd ever heard of. Yeah. Yeah. If Naoya Inoue, if that motherfucker fought outside of Japan, and let me be clear here, he doesn't give a fuck about fighting outside of Japan, and it's entirely his choice. Who cares, you know? Because he's making the history over there. I mean, a 2-time undisputed champion, and Bud Crawford made history as the first man to accomplish that feat. You know, back in, I believe it was July that he fought Earl. Because, dude, and then right after that happened, it took Inoue 6 months. He knocked out Stephen Fulton up at super bantamweight, got 2 titles, and then he fought Marlon Tapales. He knocked him out, got another 2. Naoya Inoue, man, the monster out of Japan, 26 up, 26 down, 23 wins by knockout, and even some of those decisions, like he went to decision with Nonito Donaire, and then in the rematch, he fucking annihilated him.
By the way, I need to send you this clip.
Yeah.
There's a clip of where he's talking about when I think he broke his orbital in that fight. Have you seen that clip by any chance?
I think I have.
Where he's like, I was seeing 2 of them. And he's like, and he was like, in the interview shows in the picture, so he's like, you could see him like this, and then me behind him, he's like, yeah. And then they show a clip of the fight where he's covering his orbital eye with his glove so he can see only one Nonito Donaire.
What a dude! He's fucking
dude. That is some next level. I was like, and when I saw the clip, it doesn't say anything, you know, like it just skipped to it.
Yeah. And
it took me a second to realize what was happening, and then I was like, oh shit! Mm-hmm. Like what?
Mm-hmm. Exactly, dude. Exactly. And yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah. I mean, he's the real deal. And, like I said, if he fought, man, if he fought in America, fought out, not even just in America, he's fought in America before, like once or twice, but like that was a couple of years ago, at this point. Man, he's so fucking exciting. Like I said, 26 up, 26 down, 23 wins by knockout, 2-time undisputed champion. He has to be your Boxer of the Year for 2023, and I don't particularly think it's close. Shout out Bud Crawford. Excellent feat, finally facing Earl and just beating the dog shit out of him. You know, Canelo notched a couple big wins, you know, but dude, let's be honest, it's not even a contest. It's Naoya Inoue. And he's still only getting better too. And that's a crazy thing. He's 30 years old, man. Like, he still has a lot left in him. So we'll see. We'll see where he goes from here. Now it's time to divert to MMA, because we have to give out our male and female fighter of the year. So we'll go ahead and we'll go with the women first. Who do you got for your female fighter of the year?
This one's going to trigger some people, Josh, but I have to go with Amanda Nunes.
Ooh.
I know this is very controversial, and I hate to say it, but I don't think any of the women really impressed me this year. They did in the hat, and granted, Weili Zhang was on the book, put on the silence for a while. Amanda Nunes retired. Strawweight obviously got slowed down. For me, it has to be Amanda Nunes, man. She gets to end her career and finish it in Amanda Nunes fashion. And we talked about it way back when she would retire. One of the things I loved about her speech was she said, no matter who comes next or the person after that, none of them are going to be able to do what I did. Not the one after that, not the one after that, or the one after that. And, something, I got to agree with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree as well. Look, especially at the top level of women's MMA, for whatever reason, they just don't get booked that often. So yeah, that's a fine pick, dude. That's a fine pick, and she's literally the GOAT. If you're looking at everything that she's done, sure, she suffered the loss to Pena, but she beat the dog shit out of her in the rematch, and was almost definitely going to do the same in the trilogy. That's a good pick. Admittedly, I've gone back and forth on this one a fair bit. There's two women who I really want to do, and I think that I'm going to go ahead and go with this one. It's also slightly controversial, but I feel like I have to do it. I feel like I'm wrong if I don't speak my heart on this podcast. Erin Blanchfield is my 2023 Women Fighter of the Year, mainly because I knew that she was good, and I think most people knew she was good. I don't think anybody expected her to be as fucking good as she is at this age. 24 years young, already pound for pound number 5 in the women's pound for pound rankings, number 2 at flyweight. If there was not a draw in ELYXR Grasso-Shevchenko, which Grasso would have been my fighter of the year for women had she not had the rematch with Shevchenko, wherein most people thought she lost, and it was ruled a draw. Upset was incredible, but even then, it was an upset win where she was down on the card, and in the rematch, it was a great fight, but most people thought Shevchenko deserved the nod. I gotta give it to Blanchfield, man. A dominant win over Jessica Andrade, a dominant win over Talia Santos, to go from being at the back of the rankings. She fought unranked Molly McCann before her fight against Jessica Andrade. Before that, she fought JJ Aldridge, dude. And to go from that, just a couple months later, beating Andrade, beating Talia Santos, putting her name in the pound for pound discussion, I have to give it to Erin Blanchfield. And if we were talking about breakout fight of the year, if she probably would have gotten that one if we had different qualifications for it. But in the end, she's my female fighter of the year because she was so fucking impressive, man. Have to go ahead and I gotta tip it, dude. I gotta tip it. I knew she was good, but not that good. So. Mm-hmm. But now we have our last award before we go ahead and break into some news. Male fighter of the year, man. A lot of great choices from the combat sports world. Who do you got, man?
Look, and once again, I felt like not too many of the guys stood out, but if we had to go through all of them, there was probably 2 good options. And I went with the latter, and that was Sean Strickland, Josh. He is my male fighter of the year.
Yeah, same here, man. My male fighter of the year is the human Marlboro Red Sean Strickland, man. I gotta give it to him. Yeah, jokes aside, dude, I'm glad we're in agreement on this. 3 wins, all of them being pretty damn dominant, including the upset win over Izzy. And part of it also comes from the fact that I don't think either one of us ever expected to be talking about fighter of the year, Sean Strickland. So it's probably our expectations that played a bit into it. But yeah, dude, you're talking about a guy who completely flipped his reputation around for being I remember after the Bahia fight last summer, some people looked at him like he was a fucking joke. Nobody ever, I don't think too many people thought he was world class caliber even going into the fight with Izzy. So yeah, man, I gotta tip it. That's a great pick. And, yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. But anything else you want to mention, man? Would that be about the 2023 years of combat sports, or any other fighters you want to mention?
I mean, to touch on the male fight of the year, my only other choice that I had, and I didn't make, and the only reason is because they also had a loss this year, was Alex Mejia. I thought he was a good choice as well, but he did suffer a knockout loss to Easy in his and ended up losing his title. He ended up regaining another title, but if he could have maintained dual-weight championship, I think it would have been pretty undisputed Alex Mejia for fighter of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm in full agreement with that. But who knows? I mean, that's the fun thing, man. I mean, if he didn't get knocked out by Izzy, probably doesn't end the year as light heavyweight champ either. So,
sure, we don't know that, but you're not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, who knows though? But anyways, man, yeah, I mean, an excellent year for combat sports. This is actually kind of a quick question that I didn't even have in there. I'm curious, what do you think had a better year, MMA or boxing?
It's a tough one. It depends how you're looking at it, right? Because a lot of big fights got made this year. I mean, you gotta think about it. We had Ryan and Tank made a big fight. Mm-hmm. Obviously, whatever you want to make about the fight's a different story. We obviously had Bud Crawford and Earl finally happen. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we had
Fury and Ngannou, another one.
Fury and Ngannou. Basically all the Riyadh cards, right?
Yeah.
And for MMA, I mean, there was a lot of upsets, you know, that could, I mean, depending how you look at that, that's either a really good thing or a really bad thing, depending, you know, kind of where you want to sit on that. I don't know what to make of it. I thought MMA had a pretty solid year. It was a fun year. It had a lot of ups and downs. It had drama. But I think boxing might have just edged it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, I'm actually in agreement with you. What a year for boxing, man. I mean, I never thought I would ever say that boxing had a better year than MMA. And I don't think MMA had a bad year by any means. Especially the pay-per-views all delivered. But you gotta think about outside of those really big pay-per-views. We had a lot of shit this year too. So yeah. Just a lot of months where nothing happened. So I'm gonna go ahead and
we didn't get certain fights too, Josh. You know, Chimaev didn't fight his original opponent who was supposed to be who was it, Paulo Costa? Or I forgot who, Robert, what?
Paulo Costa, yeah.
John Jones, Stephen Miocic didn't happen this year. Charles Oliveira, Islam Makhachev didn't happen in Abu Dhabi. We didn't get Conor McGregor or Michael Chandler. You know, obviously not to be a dick, but we got Colby Covington, Leon Edwards as a title match instead of Bilal Muhammad or Shakbat or whoever it may be. You know what I mean? There was a lot of those other things, you know, there was a lot of big fights that we also didn't get, you know, but there was a lot of great moments as well. Weili Zhang was put on the back burner for a little bit there. She didn't get to fight late into the year, but she put on a great performance. You know, stuff like that. We didn't really know where 145 women's division was going to be at, but we're still getting 145, you know, fights in the women's division. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It was.
Shit, Paulo Costa didn't fight in 2023.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
You know,
we missed out on John Jones, Francis Ngannou. It's another one. Another big fight we missed out on. So, yeah, there was a lot of them. John Jones, Stipe Miocic is another fight, you know? Like, we missed out on a lot of big fights, so I am in agreement with you on that one, man. It was a great year for boxing, and I hope people don't take away that we're thinking it was a bad year of MMA. It was a great year for MMA. But damn, it was an even better year for boxing. Just absolutely insane. Nonetheless, that's all we got for the Soundoff Awards. However, we do have some brief. I mean, we have like a lot of news, but these are all going to be relatively brief, if I had to guess. We got 3 UFC 300. 3 UFC. There we go. Shout out Dana, man. I didn't even think to put that together. 3 UFC 300. We got 3 UFC fight announcements from Dana over the weekend. Dana Pink. He announced Yuri Prochazka taking on Alexander Rakic up at light heavyweight. There were rumors that one was going to go down to 298. It said it's going down to UFC 300. The featherweight debut of Aljamain Sterling taking on the longtime contender Calvin Kattar. And then Bo Nickel will enter as one of the biggest UFC favorites ever against Cody Brundage in his return. What do you kind of make of those matchups, man? Granted, we'll preview them in less than 4 months at this point. But what do you think about it, man?
I mean, I was pleasantly surprised with all these matchups. I mean, I'll say it, man. Dana dropped some heat on us.
Mm-hmm.
He really did. Like, he dropped some fire. He dropped that mixtape, bro. I might have to pick it up. I'm
agree.
I'm in shock. I mean, Yuri Rakic, solid matchup. Yuri kind of making a decently fast turnaround, I'd say. Sterling Cater, I think that's a perfect fight for Aljamain to make his debut at 45. Good fight for Cater as well. Bo Nickel, Cody Bridge, a matchup that I never thought about. But I'm down for. I think I will say I thought there was other 85ers that maybe push Bo Nickel more at this point in his career. But I guess the UFC kind of wants to still take their time with Bo Nickel, which I don't think there's an issue with. I don't know if Bo wants that, but especially. By the way, we didn't even talk about this. Did you hear about JRE?
I saw some of it. Yeah.
I listened to the full thing, and let me tell you this. I mean, he sounds like a guy who has the right idea. Let me tell you that. Just as far as like coming into the sport, it doesn't just sound like he wants to just wrestle all these guys and his wrestling's gonna be his end all be all. And kind of talking about how his recovery, kind of his approach to fighting, kind of is doing everything, and kind of how he's trying to bring guys up to and develop a system out there at like in the Penn State area, and kind of, you know, get guys from Penn State who are doing wrestling to kind of maybe at some point transition over to MMA, you know, kind of have that option as well if they do want to do that after their college wrestling career. I mean, a lot of interesting stuff. If you haven't finished listening, I would recommend, you know, going ahead, Josh, and going back at some point to finish it because it was really great. And let me tell you this, it only made me excited to get more Bo Nickel, especially with the way he's talking and the fact that he wants to be active and, you know, kind of talking about his career and kind of starting up, and he's only really training for 2 years apparently, Josh, which is even crazier.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy, from what I did see of it, he seems like he's a young guy with his head on his shoulders, right? And he's definitely, like, really cocky, but at the same time, like, how can you not be if you're Bo Nickel? I mean, this is like,
right.
This kid has been wrestling for his entire life. He's so fucking good. He's the greatest, like, from my understanding, he's one of the greatest of all time at his craft. I'm not as educated on wrestling as I am other combat sports, but from my understanding, when it comes to collegiate wrestling, 100%.
Wow, Josh, I didn't know you were a Muay Thai expert too.
Dude, hey, you know, I'm out there fucking Bangkok all day. You know, I'm out there and fucking just killing it, man. I'm out there
Stifler?
training myself. Huh?
I was like, Stifler?
Yes, exactly. Anyways, yeah, dude, I'm out there in the fields working myself, dude. I'm fucking kicking the pads, you know. But anyways, throwing the knee up, you know. But yeah, I mean, he's the real deal, and I understand why he's a huge favorite. Cody Brundage, I like a lot. I mean, he's coming off a big win of his own, and he's had some big wins of the UFC. So there's definitely like a lot worse matchmaking you could do. But yeah, man, one of the biggest favorites of all time, man, and it's not even undeserved too. I mean, if you look at his MMA career, he's had 5 fights, which have lasted, I believe, a combined less than 5 minutes. So
not even a full round.
Not even a full round. So fucking ridiculous. So yeah, man. I mean, this kid's the real deal. Excited to see him back. As far as the other matchups, I don't have a whole lot to add for it, man. I know Aljo wanted a guy like Max Holloway. He wanted a bigger name. In the end, he draws Calvin Kattar. It's going to be a banger. Excited to see it. I know it's not exactly what he wanted, but still.
I mean, if he gets that win, though, Josh, he can easily get right up there, though.
He can. And also, he's taking on a guy in Calvin Kattar who, I believe this will be his first fight since he got injured, right? Or am I misremembering?
I think you're right, unless it was the Josh Emmett fight, but I could be incorrect.
Yeah, he's October of 2022, whenever he tore his shit against Arnold Allen. So
over a year, so a year and some change.
Yeah, interesting. And then obviously the Yuri fight, interesting one. Rakic hasn't fought in a while either, so we'll see how he does, man. We'll see how he does. That should be a banger. UFC 300, you know, they said that Dana said he's gonna have some more fights this week, hopefully. So we'll see.
Give us something to talk about. It's always exciting.
Yeah. Nonetheless, man, we do have a couple of other pieces of news. Speaking of UFC 300, Nate Diaz, who we haven't seen since a loss to Jake Paul in August, he's continually teasing that he will return to the UFC for UFC 300 If Nate does come back to the UFC for UFC 300, who do you want to see him fight in his return?
I mean, there's only one choice, Josh.
Yeah?
Proper 12! Conor McGregor.
You think they should just say fuck the Chandler fight, right?
I mean, no. I mean, I would love to see Chandler fight over the Nate fight, if I'm being quite honest.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'd like that build up more, personally. I'm more invested in it.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, that's probably the obvious one, and the fact that they haven't been able to book, Conor versus Chandler. Maybe that's a sign. But Conor himself was out there earlier this week ranting about how the UFC just won't give him a fight. He said he wanted to come back at UFC 300. He said they told him no. Then he heard there was July. He said he's getting really pissed off of waiting. So we'll see. We'll see.
We're gonna keep talking about this, Josh, until they tell us. But what the fuck is UFC 300's main event gonna be? We have no fucking idea still. Is it gonna be Jamal Hill versus Alex Pereira? Is it gonna be Tom Aspinall versus John Jones?
It's gonna be Tom Aspinall versus Alex Pereira, buddy.
I don't know. I mean, we've joked about it. I think it'd be cool. I don't know if they'll make it happen. Is Israel Adesanya going to come back sooner than what we thought?
Yeah.
And we have no sense of direction still. Like, I am going to repeatedly bring this up. I'm going to, what's the saying? I'm going to keep beating the horse.
Yeah.
Until I find out. Keep beating the dead horse until I find out. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. But keep on beating the dead horse, man. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens next with Conor, man. See what happens next with him, because any big fight he has is going to be interesting. Same thing for Nate, but we'll see if they end up booking it. UFC 300 needs big names, and like you said, we're not even close to finding out either. So we'll see. Colby Covington, he's doing like a media tour now. He's done a couple of podcasts. He originally called out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson following his loss to Leon Edwards. Now he's saying that he wants Ian Gary next. What do you think about that as a potential match for 170?
I'm down. I think Ian Gary should be down too.
Yeah. Do you think that's a good fight for Ian Gary?
I mean, look, he still has to get through Jeff Neal, but I think a perfect opponent following Jeff Neal, if he is to beat Jeff Neal, Colby Covington is right there for you, man. Because if you can get through these next two guys, beat Colby Covington, you're kind of setting yourself up there for a potential title shot. And if Colby has you in his mouth, that's a good thing. Honestly, for Ian Gary, that's kind of ideal. Keep that going. Don't make that stop. And ideally, and it kind of pays out for both guys. It'll pay out for Colby. It'll pay out for Ian Gary. Both guys will win in the end. To an extent, I should say. Obviously, for Colby, I mean, losing at this point in his career is just going to set him back very far from the title. Even though I believe there is probably no way in hell he ever returns to the title shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I fully agree, dude. I mean, definitely a lot of fights you can make that are interesting for both guys right now. And Ian Gary is booked to face, I believe, Jeff Neal in January or February. So maybe after that fight, if he can get through unscathed, that could be a fun one. Colby Covington also recently saying that he wants to become the governor of Florida, and that is his goal after retirement. Angel, give me a 1 out of 10. How likely do you think it is that Colby Covington will ever become the governor of Florida?
1.
You don't think he's got the fucking Jesse Ventura in him to fucking pull an upset and become governor? I don't think he does either. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. I mean, I did find that funny because he did an interview. I can't remember his fucking name. It was one of the Republican podcasts. There's like 17,000 of them. I don't know. But and he was asked about it, and he's like, "Oh, what do you think you're gonna do after retirement?" He's like, "Well, I'm not even close to retirement. I don't think about that stuff." And then he rattled off like 10 minutes about how he wants to get involved in politics and become a governor and all that stuff. And it's like, "Okay, Colby, we know what you're doing, bro." It's just so I give it 3 years before he runs for some political office. Nonetheless, we have a couple other pieces of news, not UFC related, to go ahead and close out the show. I did mention Francis Ngannou earlier. Apparently, the PFL will have a pay-per-view event going down in Saudi Arabia on February 24th. This has not been formally announced. I've just seen that it's been reported. as we previously talked about, Saudi Arabia has agreed to underwrite their pay-per-view undercard, so no wonder this it's going down there. What are some of the fights that you think could land on this? Obviously, we talked about Ngannou, man. I don't know who he'd face, but that seems very, very likely. Maybe even Kayla Harrison, Chris Cyborg. I mean, there's a lot of potential for this. So what do you think about this news that PFL is going to be holding a pay-per-view event just a couple months from now?
I don't know what to make of it, to be honest. It's so soon. I'm kind of wondering if they're gonna. Is this gonna be the kind of Bellator X PFL champion card? I wonder. I don't know, because it kind of did make that seem like they wanted to do that pretty early on in the year. Also with Jake Paul's gonna be co-main eventing in March with Amanda Serrano. I mean, that'd be a really quick turnaround. I really don't know what they're trying to do here. I guess they're just gonna try to build a card with what they got and sell it as a pay-per-view, but even then, they're going to have to put a lot of really good guys and gals on there, and I don't know who that's going to be. Honestly, I can't think of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we know apparently Ngannou's going to be on it, and to be quite honest, there's not a whole lot of other options for him to face in boxing anyway, you know? Nonetheless, dude, I don't know who he'll face. I don't know what other names are going to... Apparently, from what I've heard, this is going to be the Bellator versus PFL card. Their championship card. So that'll be intriguing. We'll get to see maybe Johnny Eblen. I know Derek Brunson's a fight that's been floated for that one as well. Gegard Mousasi's shown interest in jumping on there. Obviously, all the champions will allegedly be a part of it. You know, and Chris Cyborg, Larissa Pacheco apparently, potentially. But Chris Cyborg said for a boxing match in January, so I don't know, it'll be fast turnaround? Who knows? Regardless, we'll have to see how this one develops. It is an interesting story that really flew under the radar whenever I saw some reports come about it earlier this week. Nonetheless, we mentioned Jake Paul. He's going to be fighting on March 2nd in the co-main event of Amanda Serrano's return. This fight will also feature the boxing debut of Javon Walton, known from HBO's Euphoria. Yes, that kid was actually a boxer. So
Ashtray.
Ashtray is all grown up now, so he will be making his boxing debut on March 2nd. Give me your thoughts.
Is it an AMI debut, right, or is it pro debut?
Pro debut.
Oh shit! So my boy's making it big.
Yeah, correct. It will be his professional debut. Give me your thoughts on this announcement.
I mean, he has AMI fights though, right? I know I keep cutting you off there, but he does have AMI fights, right?
Yeah, he's 20-9, I believe, according to BoxRec as an AMI. He also fought Floyd Mayweather, his hyped up prospect. Carmel Moton, I believe his name is. Moton? I don't know. Young, undefeated kid, 18 years old, being hyped up by Floyd by now. Him and Javon Walton fought twice as AMIs. That's a fun thing to keep watching for in the future. So, yeah. But yeah, it's going to be his pro debut. He's definitely had more than a fair share of amateur fights.
I mean, look, for Jake Paul's promotion, I mean, this is like the perfect person, right? You have this young kid who very talented. I mean, I remember back in the day when he was talking, I mean, a few years back, he was talking like, he wanted to go to the Olympics for boxing, he wanted to go to the Olympics for gymnastics. He's also big into gymnastics. And, you know, he was just hyping all this stuff up. And even now, I mean, look, have we ever had anybody who's kind of had this kind of following and stardom who's actually this talented in sport and done movies and shows that were as big as they were? You know, I don't think there's ever been anybody like that. I mean, he's definitely got some star power behind him at such a young age, and he hasn't even made his pro debut. And on top of that, he, you know, like I said, he has this big following. Like, it's just shocking. Like, I don't know if there's ever been anything like this. I mean, he could potentially be a big star in a few years down the line. Obviously, he's got to build up his record. He's got to stay consistent. He's got to fight and obviously stay focused and have his right mindset. I don't know if he's going to continue doing the acting or doing TV shows or anything like that, because, you know, that obviously going to play a factor. But, you know, it sounds kind of weird, but in a way, Javon Walton can kind of, in a sense, depending how his career goes and how he wants to take it, can kind of relate a little bit to Jake Paul. Mm-hmm. Not going to lie. I mean, it's a little different because Jake went from acting, YouTube, social media to boxing, where Javon was already training, trying to come up, had always been into boxing, and then went into TV, but kept doing all this stuff, and then is now kind of shifting his focus to his athletic career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, they probably can relate in that aspect. That's something that I've also thought about too. So if there's a guy that like, I don't think anybody should probably ever take advice from Jake Paul, but I think if there's a guy who's going to relate to him, it's probably Jamal Malton. You know what I mean? So, yeah, excited to see that debut. Excited to see who Jake faces. Obviously, it's going to be a guy of Andre August's caliber, you know, a lamb being led to slaughter, basically. So,
Or maybe a little higher. Maybe a little higher.
I mean, look, I would be shocked given the short notice aspect of it, in that it's in the co-main. I mean, if he loses, that's like the absolute worst case scenario. So, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, this is our last piece of news today. It's a bit of a low key one, but I feel like I got to go ahead and bring it up, man, because my favorite tradition. MMA does not have too many traditions these days. They really don't. It just by virtue of the fact that the sport's just changed so much over the years. My favorite tradition for a long time is the New Year's Eve card going down in Japan. For a long time it was Pride. Now it's Ryzen doing it. And Ryzen 45 going down New Year's Eve, like I said, and there's a lot of banger matchup. Koji Horiguchi taking on Makamoto Tahashi for the Ryzen flyweight title. Juan Archuleta, the Ryzen bantamweight champ, taking on Kai Asakura in an absolute banger. UFC veterans like John Dodson littered throughout. What's your interest level in this fight card, the only fight card going down this weekend?
I'm excited, man. I mean, Ryzen always puts on a fun show. It's obviously going to be in the Saitama Super Arena. And kind of a weird thing, like something you didn't even mention there, Josh. You did say it's for the Ryzen featherweight title. This fight between these two guys was originally for the, not featherweight title, flyweight title. This fight was originally for the Bellator flyweight title. No longer on the line. Mm-hmm. Is Kyoji kind of like, what's going on with Kyoji now? Like, is he going to continue to do like Bellator XPFL stuff? And obviously the PFL doesn't have a flyweight division, but Bellator is now PFL. What's going to go on? You know, what's kind of going on there? Same with Juan Archuleta here, you know? Are they going to let these guys kind of go out and roam and do their own kind of thing in these, you know, because, you know, Bellator kind of was doing their thing with Ryzen, but does that mean, is PFL kind of want to do their thing with Ryzen, you know? I think that's a whole other conversation of itself there that needs to come up at some point. But nevertheless, I mean, the card, like you said, exciting. I think the main and co-main event are actually great fights at the end of the year. You know, Cleaver on the card, Rin Hiramoto, you know, always causing drama at the weigh-ins. Tsushiro Sodario, the sumo wrestler, heavyweight guy. And you mentioned that, I was thinking it's Hiromuto Ukubo? Hard
Close enough for me.
hard last name to pronounce, man. That should be a banger, especially how, I mean, John Dodson's been extremely competitive, man, ever since, exiting the UFC. I mean, he's been doing anything. He's only lost one fight since exiting the UFC, Josh. And that was to Cody Gibson. And Cody Gibson's now in the UFC once again. And made it on tough. So, I mean, if that shows anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I mean, look, I mean, you did mention a couple like that situation. I believe Juan Archuleta is just straight up Ryzen now. I don't think he's a Bellator guy at this point. I think he's just straight up signed with Ryzen. Koji, I have no idea. Because from what I remember, the entire point was that he had like a dual-sided deal.
Well, we might be breaking news. I don't know if we actually are, but it says Juan Archuleta's Instagram page, you know, Ryzen PR1 First American World Champ. And then it says former Bellator bantamweight champion, which he is. But it says new PFL MMA fighter. So, there you go.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. Yeah, interesting, man. Interesting. So, I think this is going to be it's going to be a fun night. I encourage people to watch it. It's going to go down an odd time, but yeah, nonetheless, man. This is your final podcast of the year, man. Anything you want to say to the Soundoff fans out there? This is a very big 2023 for us.
I mean, look, we exit the year, I'd say on a high, man. I mean, we did a lot this year, gained a lot of subscribers. You know, our clips went crazy, our views went crazy. Started a TikTok. I mean, hopefully next year we kind of continue to grow and expand on the content and even grow a bigger following. It's just been such a fun year, honestly. And, you know, I'm not going to be hard on us, but I think we could have even done better, you know?
Yeah.
I think we did very good, but we could have even done better. So hopefully next year we can do even better than this year. Kind of continue the trend and break that 1 million view threshold.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's exactly what it comes down to, man. I mean, we appreciate everybody who's. I mean, we're about to be at 1,300 subscribers, which if you would have told us back in January that like, oh, you guys are gonna get like, you're basically gonna more than double your audience, on YouTube. That'd be pretty fucking crazy because I don't even remember what we had to start the year. 600, something like that. I don't know, but you get my point.
700 probably, 600,
yeah,
700.
Somewhere around there. But yeah, I mean, we got 500,000 views this year, over 500,000. Over 600 subscribers, and we're not killing it. We're not fucking Mr. Beast, but
I mean, record setting, man. I mean, our last 2 months on YouTube, not even clips, Josh. I don't even look, but like podcast strictly. I mean, for a while we were talking back kind of like how we consistently would break like, 150 views, 180 views. I mean, the last few months have been consistently over 200 views, 300 views, 100 views. I mean, we've been doing our fucking part, man.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We've been doing our part, and we're killing it. And like, look, I went ahead and said that we're gonna have an announcement soon. I want to make like a kind of like a short video to kind of recap and kind of like thank the people, for the 2023 and talk about our 2024 plans. So I'm not gonna reveal what we're gonna do, but me and Angel have some like ambitious plans for 2024 in terms of content and stuff like that. So. And in terms of like changing the show a little bit up. So, hope you guys,
Patreon 2024 coming at us.
No, maybe, who knows? We'll see how it goes, but jokes aside, man. Yeah, big year. Hope you guys enjoy this episode. Hope you guys stay along with us for the ride, man. I'm at Josh Evanoff on Twitter. He's at Angel Ortega _01 at Courtside Sound for all things relating to the show. If you guys enjoyed, peace and butt grease. Mouse click.